If I look like crap, it's because I feel like crap. My neuromuscular disorder is really winning lately. So it's a struggle. Today, David is at the sale in uh, the next couple counties over. Um, I couldn't go due to my health. So ended up at the doctor yesterday and got a bunch of shots and a bunch of medicine. So I'm down for the count, but I've got to feel useful and I feel like I need to do something. He's not having a good day. Obviously, y'all know me. I guess for people, there's been a lot of new people. There's been a lot of new people bouncing off of my channel lately because for some reason, here in the last little bit, there have been people making videos about me or about things that I've said in the past, which I don't mind at all. If it's there, it's, if I said it, you're free to use it and do whatever. Hi, Clara. So I don't mind people making videos about me. Most of them actually have been very kind. Um, so I don't mind at all. But I've had a lot of newbies to my page because of that. And so I guess I probably need to do a kind of like a introduction for just a minute. So for y'all old peeps that watch this, give me just a minute and let me introduce myself to the new peeps. So I am a retired parole officer and counselor. I have my master's in psychology, and I basically worked in forensic psychology. Hi, music. I basically worked in forensic psychology because I worked in the corrections world with the penal system. And when I counseled, I primarily counseled youth in state's custody who had trauma addictions or trauma, drug addictions, or like past violence, PTSD. And they were in state's custody. They'd been removed from the home due to their outburst of violent nature. It was either be in state's custody or go to prison, and they were kind of in that limbo land of being in state's custody in an institutional home. I did also do individual, independent, private counseling, but I really enjoyed and did well with teenagers that were kind of violent. They were never violent toward me, but they were kind of violent normally. And I did a lot of group drug addiction counseling for teenagers that were kind of in under the state's thumb, should we say. So that's kind of where I've always worked. When I was younger, I worked at a wilderness boot camp. I was a counselor at a wilderness boot camp where we lived in the woods, cooked our meals in the woods, lived in cabins that we made and cut timber to make. And when I was working there, I had to go in and de-escalate a specific incident that another younger female counselor could not control. They called me in. I went to them. They radioed me. I went to them. I got the other 13 children to safety, got the female counselor to safety, and the 17-year-old boy then chucked the axe at me. He had taken the axe from the child that was actually cutting timber that day. He wasn't supposed to have it. He hadn't been there long enough. And he threw the axe at me. And that started a whole lot of ankle and knee surgeries and damage to bones, ligaments, tendons, and my nerve bundles, which triggered a response by my body. So basically now the easiest way to describe it is my nervous system is diseased. It doesn't function correctly. It doesn't send the correct signals. It's kind of like a car with a carbon block. Sometimes it gets the gas and sometimes it doesn't. And it doesn't always equate what the car needs to run properly. So I have a lot of issues because now it's spread to my digestive tract and my organs. It gives me most problems with my pancreas, which screwed up again last month. And I'm just lucky it hasn't made it to my heart. I have friends that their hearts are involved, so it's not a pleasant disorder. Here lately for the last month, I had my pancreas mess up again after doing primarily pretty well for for several months actually. I think I was doing pretty good, and my pancreas bobbled again. My nerve impulses kind of, with the onset of fall and winter with that cold spell, my nervous system kind of went whoops-a-daisy, and my pancreas thought it would get into the act. And so I've been very sick for the last 4 to 6 weeks, and just kind of on a roller coaster ride, and was back at the doctor yesterday to check enzyme levels and to check just overall how I'm doing. And I got more meds, because one thing that happens when I don't function properly is I had mastoiditis about a year and a half ago. And so now when my body gets to where it doesn't want to function correctly, the worst thing that happens is I have fluid pool in the back of my neck and head and ears, which really creates a lot of problems. And if left untreated, could turn into meningitis. So as soon as I feel the pulling in the neck and the back of the head, I have to go to the doctor and antibiotics and all that stuff. So I'm back on all the antibiotics and trying to make sure that the fluid's draining. So I've not had like the best month health-wise ever. But I've noticed the last 3 weeks, a lot of people popping into my channel because people are doing videos about me and what I have to say, which is fine. Most of them have been very positive, or at least creating conversations that I think need to happen. So if I ever put anything out here, y'all are more than welcome to use it. Some days I look nice and some days I look like trash. It just depends on my health. Today's a trash day. So, but I think that we're starting to see a lot more communication on the internet that needs to occur, especially with what occurred last night with the Twitter fiasco and Elon Musk and that Taibbi guy or whatever his name is. I think we're starting to have conversations we've needed to have for about a decade, and we're starting to get the proof we need to have those conversations without someone screaming conspiracy. And I think that's necessary. I think the world we live in today, it's necessary that we have communication. So I welcome anyone to take my videos and use them, and it seems like there have been a few already done that, and you're more than welcome to, and if you ever want to speak with me, that's fine. I think the biggest thing in the last few weeks has been the Karlin Borsenko video that I did. Thank you, Clara. It's a JV, and then there is a Martin Speaks. I think it's like Just JV or something like that. He's done a couple about me. But the one that has kind of amped up the Karlin Borsenko, and I think the visitation to my page has been the Martin Speaks about the Karlin Borsenko. And it seems like my issue with her was not an isolated issue. It seems like she is almost becoming like self-destructive. And for me, that's like a red flag. I don't believe she's a very happy person. I don't believe she's in a very happy space. And I don't believe that she is, I don't believe that she used her outreach to this platform in an appropriate manner. And I think we're all starting to see that now. And it's kind of scary because this is someone that for a long time has garnered a lot of viewers and a lot of conversation and a lot of ability to communicate to people based on her statement that she is walking away from the left and was accepted by the right and wants to talk about the differences between the two parties. Where she's gotten herself caught up is when the honeymoon phase was over and she actually started to have to deal with realistic everyday problems. She started still employing some tactics that are primarily leftist, and so the people on the right called her out. And I'm kind of middle ground. I don't really belong anywhere. I just kind of watch everyone and try not to act like the people that I think cause problems. But she was getting called out for that behavior, and rather than have conversations about the behavior, she just simply attacked. And so now she's attacked several people, some prominent people, and she has this very tacky desire to go and live streams as she watches them and just berate people and try to tear them apart, which then she'll try to get her crew to go onto the live stream and like attack. And it's kind of like she has this little minion army. And it's really sad because that, again, is a leftist tactic. It would be much better if she could actually have communications with these individuals and debate her issue without becoming emotionally overheated and asking others to fight the battle for her. I think that every individual has their own views, and when you ask someone to adopt your views and act in your stead, you are basically doing nothing better than those people that are trying to buy votes and sway people and kind of create an alignment rather than a general thought process and conversation about what needs to occur. I think she just wants people to be like her rather than understand the nuance of the people that are kind of politically homeless right now because of all the crap that's going on in our politics and entire government. And I would call it a governmental facade, to be quite honest. Yeah. Music. She says, I think it's sad we live in a world where people care more about materials than morals. And I think we've been there for a long time. And I think it's just been hidden because they had aligned our morals with what they deemed appropriate for us, which was to work, be quiet, be good, provide a life, be good, be quiet, hard work, nose down, eyes down, not a blip. And that bled over when we needed to raise our eyes up and be loud. We were so well trained to have our eyes down, just work, shut up, and not say anything. And so they kind of trained us in a way to where they knew it would take us too long to respond. And every day that you are in a society that is governed and that has laws and rules and has kind of a social contract that you follow, you are being trained. Your behavior is being trained. From a child, you are this little malleable thing, and you are being sculpted to fit into this society. And you have to be very careful and very observant as to what that society wants and what it says is necessary and what it says is positive and what it says is negative. And I think for a long time, they kind of had the good people hoodwinked because, most good people just want to go to work and not cause a problem and keep their heads down and just be quiet and live their life and be left alone. And so for a long time, the people that should have spoken up didn't speak up because they thought to be good, moral people, it was just shut up, keep your eyes down, and go to work and things will resolve. So by the time it got to the point where people had to speak up, we were already 10 years behind the curve. Our voices were already 10 years too late because we were trained, from the time we entered school, shut up, keep your head down, do your work, don't bother your neighbor. But we all watched the people that bother their neighbors get ahead. We all watched the people that did bad things succeed. We all watched people that do good, honest things fail. And it seemed like the world was backwards, but we never spoke because we thought, I just need to keep my head down. I just need to keep working. I just need to keep moving forward. Things will align again correctly, but they don't unless good people speak up. And I'm not saying, in a violent manner. There's, violence just begets violence. So it's just like the, vicious cycle that never ends. But there is a place and time for everyone to speak up. I was also a very quiet person for the majority of my life until I hit a place where I realized no matter how good I was, nothing was going to change just because I was good. The fact that I was good meant that I was a dog on a chain to everyone else, especially my government. I was a dog on a chain. I was kept at a safe parameter from creating any change. And my voice was in the distance because I wasn't free like the dogs that run the neighborhood and cause problems. So no one was having to deal with me. Yeah, like most grandmas and grandparents, don't talk about what happens behind closed doors. Yeah, and there's a certain truth to that. Like there are certain things that don't need to be publicized. Relationships, bedroom behavior, marital squabbles, those things don't need to be in the public eye. But when it comes to criminal behaviors and plots and things that affect our citizens that go against our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, we absolutely need to be speaking up. But for the last 20, 30 years, the people's voices that have been amplified have been the people that are not really wanting to talk about anything consistent with our country about the well-being of its citizens, but consistent with only a very tiny portion of people that want to have a specialized portrayal in our society. And I'm kind of one of those people, like, you do you as long as it doesn't, hinder me, and I'll do me as long as it doesn't hinder you. But we're getting to the point now where literally 2/3 of society are being squashed by the 1/3, and we're not having an equal representation, an equal balance, and representing and respecting everyone's rights and everyone's desire to live their own life, and without any kind of forced pressure or forced speech or forced perceptions. And we're getting to a very dangerous place. We're getting to a very dangerous place. And I live in the middle of BFE, Appalachia. So you would think that I would be the last person that witnesses a lot of this. You would think that my area is just so homogenous and so calm that nothing bad ever happens. You would be wrong. Now, we are a little slower on the curve. We are behind in a lot of things, but we still have those little changes, probably in a much smaller percentage, but we still have those little changes in our community that challenge us to grow. And I will have to say that for the last 5 to 10 years, the growth here has been predominantly negative. And the political changes here have been predominantly Democrat. And with the Democrat ruling and overture that we feel in our society, we have had more negative things occur, because it seems like the political importance umbrellaed over the importance of the citizens and the safety of the citizens and the well-being of the community. It just kind of put the light out on the community. And so we saw a lot of drug growth. We saw changes in the way that our court system worked. We saw changes in prosecution. We saw more leniency in the sentences being handed down from, no one was really given the maximum sentence. They were all given lenient sentences with alternative sentencing options and supervision options. And so we saw the criminal component in our society grow at a much faster rate than normal, because they were given community supervision options and they were still in our community. And that percentage of population grew so quickly that the people that have never been in trouble and lead a very quiet life became the minority very quickly. And this was very predominant to me because I've worked in law enforcement. I worked with the court system. I worked with 3 or 4 DAs, 2 governors. I worked on clemencies. I supervised murders and violent offenders. I've supervised sex offenders. I've supervised every level of felony offender there is, and I've done interstate compact. So I've supervised for other states as well if they've moved to Tennessee. And for me, the last 5 to 10 years has been an amazing transition that should never have occurred. The last 2 to 3 years, I know that our officers in this region, like when I was an officer, we might see 1 positive heroin drug screen every month, 1 a month. It was something that wasn't seen in this area. We were a hard to get to area. We did not have good routes for cartel to smuggle things through, and we might be an afterthought to a cartel who might have additional stuff to dump, rather than a mainstream avenue where they knew they had committed customers. Now we are a mainstream avenue where they know they have committed customers, and officers are seeing, 4 to 7 heroin screens each reporting day, which happens at least twice a week, and instead of one a month. So we are getting a more a predominance of the more lethal drugs here. It's not people misusing marijuana. It's not people, hi Denise, it's not people misusing marijuana. It's not people misusing opioids. It's not people dabbling in the homemade stupid stuff. It's people that are actually receiving a dedicated run from a dedicated provider that comes from well outside of our region. These are not homegrown drugs, and they're predominant here now. And this week, this touched my home very closely. Now, as you all know, I'm a retired officer. Most people leave me well alone because I'm a retired officer. Some know that my health is failing. I have 99% of the time positive interactions with anyone that I used to supervise. I was a very good officer. I really wanted to change lives, and I have so many success stories, and I'm so proud of them. If you go back on my channel, you'll see some people that actually keep in touch and want me to share their story. And one of the best videos is when God used Pantene, which is funny. You'll understand the joke if you watch the video. But I have a lot of success stories, and they want to come on here and share their success with you. And when people, even the darkest, most abysmal heart, when they get it right and they start to care about themselves and they start to become a productive member of society, they shine. I mean, when they get it right, and they transform, and you can just see the light within them boom. And I love to see that transformation. I love to see people improve their life, improve their families' lives, and be happy and productive. So most of the time, I have all positive interactions which I'm rarely out of the house anymore, but if I'm out of the house, all positive interactions. Some will actually even swing by and check on me. And I don't try to hide from anyone because, I sent murderers to prison for a decade. If they want to find me, they're going to find me. But most people leave me alone because they know that while I am kind and genuine, I also have a very strong boundary line. And, and they also know that I'm country, and I'm very well prepared for any issues that may arise. I've never had anyone attempt to intimidate me. And I don't get intimidated easily. It's just, I grew up hog hunting. And, if you've had a 500-pound wild Russian boar run at you, you don't really fear a whole lot after that. Hi, Pocahontas. So I grew up doing meat processing, taxidermy, guiding hog hunts, and so I've had a rough and tumble life, and there's not a lot that scares me. But if you've watched my channel for about the past year and a half, we had some people in our generalized area begin having issues. And I feel sorry for anyone that has issues. I feel sorry for anyone that has a drug addiction. I feel sorry that anyone that has gotten themselves into the little underbelly of society where they belong to someone that uses them to funnel and sell and do these horrible things. But at the same time, you got yourself there. You got to get yourself out. Yes, Spirit, I will in just a second. Let me finish this and I will. But for the last couple of years, we actually had people very, very close to our home living in a car, in a driveway, and my husband and I had talked about how can we help them, and the fact of the matter was that any interaction would have placed us in more danger than possible good outcome that could have happened. We had pretty much resigned ourselves to wake up one morning and know that we were going to see an ambulance taking away 2 bodies because there would be DOA from an overdose. And we thought, well, that's going to happen. Well, luckily there was an intervention, but it didn't last very long, but it got them out of that situation. And then they moved back, and someone with property allowed them to put a little trailer to live in. It's fine. Try to better yourself. Even though it's an eyesore, try to better yourself. That's fine. My property values have tanked in the last 6 years. all because of the land that adjoins me. And we have 4 or 5 acres. Yeah, I feel bad that they chose that life, but at the end of the day, it's a choice. And so while I can kind of hope they make better choices, I can't force them to. So I can kind of drop crumbs and be kind and usher and hope that they'll take those crumbs, but they never do. I mean, they just never do. And well, it all came to a head the day after Thanksgiving. The day after Thanksgiving, and 20 foot from my driveway, the cops had to release a canine to chase somebody down that was hiding in the thicket. They had tried to engage and have a stop on the roadway where they had saw him and another person walking. They fled. Cops pursued. He hid. They had to release a canine. And I'm watching all this from a front porch. I have it on video, but I'm not going to share it because that would be inappropriate. I was videoing for the safety of the officers involved. Because it was a very bad situation. And they did arrest one individual, one male, and then they found another female that was hiding that had warrants out of another state and arrested her. And I looked at my husband and I said, what the heck? Because we knew something was going on, and we had voiced our concerns with the traffic and the behavior, but we didn't know the depth of it. Yeah, they're very you're right. They are very manipulative. Yeah, and you have to like drop crumbs, but don't go back to pick up the crumb yourself because you'll get in a crumb war with an addict. It's very hard to engage and help someone that is that far gone into that world. It's very difficult because at that point they're only seeing one side of the argument, and they're so blocked from any positivity. Their serotonin completely comes from someone that's an overseer. Their lust for life completely comes from, a pill or a needle, and you can't replace that after a certain amount of time, and it takes someone who really wants to do the work to change. But when we saw these arrests, we were just like, this cannot be tolerated. This can't go on. And the neighbors said some very nasty things. Of course, but we shouldn't be on the porch watching this. And immediately, I guess, thought we called the law. We did not. It was engaged from the traffic stop the cops tried to do. I asked a friend that has a scanner. And so immediately they wanted to blame us. Because blame is a big thing for these people. Blame is a huge motivator, and it's a very negative motivator. So the rest of the weekend was fairly quiet. Okay, the female obviously was extradited back to the state where she had original warrants from. The male was actually arrested, but then had a hold in another county and had to go. So I don't know how long he's going to be in custody. But it was quiet weekend. Quiet. Of course, my husband was home all weekend. And this is one thing that irritates me is nothing will be done if my husband's home, but they think if my husband's not home, that apparently I am weaker, but they don't understand that I'm the one that's tactically trained. So I'm like, it's not true. So the first night that my husband went back to work, it got to about 9:00 at night, just when things were really starting to get quiet. And I was working on some crafts. I wasn't feeling the best in the world, and I was just slowly working on some crafts. And I think I had just went and laid down for a minute to watch a show. And I was like, I'm going to take a break. And I heard ka-thunk, ka-thunk on the roof. And I thought, we've had owls and eagles land on the roof. I figured it's probably an owl as opposed to an eagle. My husband is a trapper and tanner. So if they ever think that he may have a carcass that he's freshly skinned before he's hauled off, they'll come and try to feed or something. And it's kind of neat to see a bird of prey every once in a while, but they will scratch the heck out of your tin roof. And I thought, big old fat owl or something's landed on my roof. Then I heard ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. And I went, oh, that's not an So I immediately grabbed my phone. I called my best friend, whose husband is linked to a lot of EMS 911 stuff. Put her on the phone with me, and I tucked the phone up under my bra strap in my shirt, and I said, "You're riding with me. If you hear something go down, you call 911 immediately. I need you on the phone with me right now. Someone's on my roof." And I immediately went to blacking out the house to turn off all the lights. The first thing I did was grab my 9mm, but and my spotlight. And the second thing I did was black out all of my house, ducking between rooms, blacking out my entire house so that the outside of my house was brighter than the inside of my house. And then I fixed myself in a corner of a wall where I could see 4 windows, and I would be very difficult to see. I normally have lights on fence rows that show up so I can see if anyone's in my yard. I can see a break in the lights. My lights have been disabled. So now I'm pissed. And but boom, 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 they're running on the roof. And I yelled up, "I'm coming out, so you better make your mind up whether you're leaving or staying." So as I'm trying to get out, I'm telling her, if you hear something happen, break the call and call 911 immediately. And I go out and I'm backing up, and because I play these things in my mind because of the job that I have, I know exactly where to go for cover and shadow cover. And I have a very bright spotlight that I can pretty much blind anybody with if they try to get to me. About the time I was walking toward the back door and going out the bedroom, they tipped the air conditioner, jumped off the back of the house and fled, and they went straight through my walk gate down the back pasture toward the creek and then over to where they logged the other side of the hill. And I'm out and I'm trying to get the light on them, and they're fleeing. And of course, me being the little turd that I am, I'm like, "Come back, I got plenty of hollow points to share." And they flee, they're gone. And I don't think they thought that I would know what to do. Someone else was also in the barn lot throwing rocks and pieces of wood at the house. They fled as well. A car picked one up on the road over on the other neighborhood. I could see it stop and then peel out. I don't know where the other person went. There's too much cover. It's swamp and just growed up swampland. I called the cops to come out and do a report. The cop came here, and I immediately, when he pulled up, I said, "Hey, I've got a 9mm on me." I was like, "It's going to stay on me, but it'll stay holstered unless something happens." He's like, "That's fine. Come on out. Tell me what happened." And I told him what happened. Oh yeah, I've got a big old spotlight, and of course I'm trained, and so I'm trained to use gun and spotlight at the same time, and so I'm confident and competent with firearms and what I'm doing. I just don't feel well enough to be bothered, people. I have a terminal diagnosis. Can I die in peace? That shouldn't be something you have to ask about. Yeah, I did. I yelled, "I've got plenty of hollow points to share. Come back." I was like, this is not a good joke to play because I'm not someone to joke with, And I showed the deputy. He identified where someone had hoisted someone up onto the roof, and he identified tracks where they jumped off and fled. And I said, "Listen, with my past job," I was like, "I take this as a direct threat." I said, "There was just an arrest over there." I said, "They think they blame us." I said, "Because they have to blame somebody, so they blame us." I said, "This is the same thing that happened the last time they had another family member go to jail." I said, "I got cussed out for 8 months." I said, "I had a badge then, so I couldn't respond." I said, "I don't have a badge now." I said, "So if this is attack upon me, then I will treat it as such." I said, "I will treat it as a threat, and I will handle it as such." And he said, "You have every right to." And I said, "If y'all would have just got a search warrant before you went after him," I said, you could have caught 20 people instead of 2. I said, "If you had just scoped out the joint for 2 days after you busted him, you would have caught a dozen more runners." I don't know, duh. I look at law enforcement a lot and I go, duh. It took him about 30 minutes to get here. And of course I still have my house blacked out. And so when he got there, I came and flashed the porch light so he would pull into the drive. And when he got out of his car, I came out and I immediately identified myself and told him that I was armed. And he was like, "You're fine." And He said, "Why's your house black?" I said, "Because there were people on my roof and in my yard." And I said, "I blacked my house out so they could not identify me, but I could identify them." And he said, "Oh, where did you get trained?" I said, "Probably the same place you did, the police academy." Um, so it was a little irritating. Now they haven't come back, and I think it's because they didn't think that I would respond in that manner, and so I guess I might have surprised them a little bit. Um, I'm not one to be intimidated, and this is my home. Where else am I going to go? And if you try to breach my home, I may not be able to fight long, but I'll give you a go for the first little bit until my body craps out. But this was the first time that I really ever had the sanctity of my home breached or attempted to be breached. And oddly enough, it was one of my ex-parolees that came to check on me the next day. He was like, "Are you okay? I heard what happened." I'm like, "I'm good." He's like, "Well, we all know you're mean. No, not to mess with you, but we was worried about you." And I'm like, "I'm fine." So it's kind of strange, the people that actually worry about you. He's doing actually really good, and does a lot of fire and rescue now. So it's nice to see, it's nice to see people care, but yeah, they underestimated me. And I do that a lot. I don't really talk about what all I did in my job. I did a 5 to 6 county rotation, and I worked with primarily the most violent of offenders. So I don't, they just thought I was like these little officers that they see in their neighborhoods that, see the little people that, have a 2-year sentence, and got a slap on the hand and got it all community supervision. I know. I supervise people that have been in jail for 20 years of their life, that were institutionalized and that were mean and that could kill you if they wanted to. So I picked up a better course of training and a lot more tricks of the trade through the way. So they did not think that I would respond. And when I think when I responded in a tactical way, it freaked them out and they fled. So they've not been back. And I've just been very aware. And I think the added stress has been kind of what's crapped out my body, and made my neuromuscular disorder present a little bit more heinously than it normally does. But these are things that we have to talk about. These are things that we have to say, this is not okay. If you do these things and you get yourself in trouble and you suffer the consequences, you don't get to blame someone else. You don't get to attack and possibly affect, alter, or try to end someone else's life. You don't get to breach the sanctity of someone else's home without consequence. And no one wants to hear it. No one, everyone's like, "Shh, don't cause problems." I'm not causing a problem. I am stopping a problem from continuing. And everyone's like, well, if you would have done something, the law would have been on their side. Know your law, know your rights. Know the rights that you have to take care of yourself and your property. Know your rights. Know your place in your state with your annotated code and what you can and cannot do to protect yourself and your home. Know how your law is written and who it's going to sway for, and understand what you need to do to make sure that any actions you take are legal and just. A lot of people don't know their rights, and they don't know what they can and can't do. And see, music, and I live in a lenient state, so I'm lucky. I live in a constitutional carry state. As long as you open carry, they don't care. So I'm in a luckier state, but everyone needs to go and research your state laws and see if you have a castle doctrine, or see if you have stipulations where you're forced to flee. Now, I think it's a bunch of crap that somebody would ask you to flee your own home. And I think people need to talk up about that. But after being in the situation I was in this last weekend, or this last week, I'm just I'm at my boundary point. I'm at my nope. So in a place that should be safe, in a place that should be quiet, in a place that should have a lower percentage of crime and see less of the street drugs and less of the funneling of drugs, my home has now been affected by someone else's bad decisions, because they lived they were able to set up a home in proximity to me. They didn't own any land. They were just able. And I said, can you not do something about the landowner that allowed them to live there and allowed them to do these illegal things? And they're like, well, that's just car starting a whole nother mess. Well, maybe if you start messes, people will stop getting into them. Just a thought, you know. So now that we have been told that, you know, oh, we're the stick in the mud in the neighborhood, we have to be very more aware. And I'm kind of hyper aware anyway because of my work, but David has to be much more aware because he is the one that's primarily outside in the, you know, in the woods, checking fences, doing fur work. You know, he's the one that is a target more than I would be. They would have to come in the home basically to get me. And it's sad to say that in a week my life changed this much. It's really sad to say that in a week my life changed this much. And if I try to say that I don't enjoy this, that this should not be happening in my area, then I will get a backlash from everyone here that is trying to justify the very leniency of the court system lately, that is justifying wanting to go to a cashless bond and basically not holding anyone and, you know, just slap on the wrist, let them go. And it's just because they've not been affected by it yet, or they are not close enough to the system and know the system well enough to understand how the changes will trickle down. And I do, because I worked in the system for so long. But to have your home breached because somebody wants to intimidate you, because they think you told on them and got them in trouble. And I want to make a billboard in my sign that says, when you have 27 people in your driveway and none of them stay for more than 18 seconds, we know what you're doing. You know, but they can't see, they can't make these observations because they are blinded, you know, by the lifestyle they chose. And to feel, you know, to justify and feel good about what they're doing, they have to blame others. So that's where I've been the last week. It's not been great. And you know, when seconds count, police are minutes or hours away. Yeah. And that's why I didn't immediately, that's why I called my friend first, because I knew that if I was going to catch anybody or get a glimpse of who it was so somebody could be prosecuted, it was up to me. Sadly, it was up to me. And I felt that I was in no more danger peeking up at him as I was sitting in my house. You know, if somebody's coming after you, they're coming after you, you know, whether you're a moving target or sitting still. So I engaged, and I engaged tactically and safely, but, you know, I wanted to let them know I can play this game too. So it was just not a pleasant week. It's not something I enjoy. When I walked away from that and went fully into counseling, I really wanted away from I wanted away from it all, because there was so much corruption that I saw. I just didn't want to be in it anymore. And so to be forcefully put back into that mindset and forcefully put back into that trained frame of mind, I did not enjoy it. And that's probably what pissed me off more than anything, to be quite honest, because, you know, I'm living a pretty solid, happy life here, and they had to bump me back 10 years and put me back into training mode. And I no. Yeah, with 3 shots, you better be, 3 bullets, you better be a good shot. That's silly. That's absolutely silly. I mean, you should be able to fire as many as it takes to save your life. But, you know, and these are the discussions we need to be having. These are these small rules that people make, that they take them to Congress, they turn them into laws, and they inflict them upon people. And the only people that are held accountable are the good people, because the bad people are not being held accountable. They're being slapped on the wrist and let go. But if it was someone that had never been in trouble, they would be prosecuted to the fullest extent of law to be an example. We're not making examples of the correct people. We are not punishing the perpetual, you know, perpetrators. We're punishing the kind people that live in our communities and are just trying to stand up for their own rights and protect their own families and their own land. I never thought I would be in the situation I was in last week, though. Never, because people give me pretty wide berth. I am not known as the nicest person. I mean, I think I'm a sweetheart. I do have a hard line where when I'm done, I'm done. You know, and that's If you meet me and I'm done, that's a bad day. Claire, it depends on if they're busy elsewhere. She asked how long it takes police to come to my house. It depends on if they're busy elsewhere, if they have anybody patrolling in the area. I think at night we only have a couple of deputies on anyway. And so I was very lucky to get one here in like the 20-25 minutes that he got here the other night. I was very lucky. And I didn't feel any safer once he got here. He might as well have been twiddling his thumbs. You know, he agreed with me and was like, yeah, you're right, this did happen. But I mean, as far as proactively pursuing it, no. You know, and I knew more than he did, which immediately he felt emasculated because I knew more than he did. But I mean, you know, hey, here in the South, we have cast iron frying pans. Somebody comes in my house, they'll be disabled with something. So, but it's just a shame. So everybody needs to start looking at the laws on the books and how it affects good people, and put yourself in the position that I found myself in last week. How would you handle it? How would you be able to handle it? How would your state or your community view you if you had to handle it in a different and more hostile manner? You know, it's really great to look at different perspectives of these laws and how it would affect different people that have to make different decisions. And then start asking your representatives and your politicians the hard questions. Why are we disabling the ability of good people to protect themselves? And why are we perpetually releasing perpetrators who are not serving? They're range 1 offenders that should be serving at least 30% of their time. If they're range 2, it's 35. If they're beyond that, you know, why are we allowing so many PCR, post-conviction relief trials? Why are we allowing people to get so many expunged records? Why are we allowing so many people who apply for diversions to get diversions when, due to the charge that they're being charged with, they should not be allowed to get a diversion? And why are we allowing people to keep clear records when they shouldn't have clear records? They should be on their record. And why are we allowing good people to be attacked? And why are we tying their hands? Why are we tying the hands of good people to protect themselves? But yet we rally for the criminal to get them out of jail as quickly as possible. We have bonding agencies so that employers can employ them without losing money. So a criminal, if they go to a factory that has bonded with these federal programs, will hire a criminal before they'll hire someone without a criminal record. Why are we doing all of this? Now, I'm not saying don't help these people, because like I said, when people do the work and they turn their life around, they shine. And I love to watch people shine. But we have to look at the statistics, at the population of people that are actually, succeeding, and we have to stop creating, hug-a-thug programs. And accountability is the best thing ever for someone that has been in trouble. Accountability, responsibility, and heavy oversight. This is a magic recipe for people that have been in trouble. And that's just always what works. Because with those 3 pressures, they will start to internally reflect. And so, we're just not, people are not, there's no reflection. There's no internal reflection in this world anymore. Not at all. Not at all. I've sat here for a week and thought, what if that had went another way? What if this, how would I have felt? What would have occurred? What possibly could have happened? How would my family have been impacted? I guarantee you not one of the people that was on my roof or on my property has had any thoughts like that. And that's something that we need to bring back to society, where people actually start to think about how they affect others, how their behavior bleeds over and creates a ripple that goes out and touches other lives. And we need to have some parameters for this that are actually enforced. And we need to stop tying the hands of the good law-abiding citizens and allow them to protect themselves, and allow them to have a voice, and to have a loud voice, and to stop calling people bigots or xenophobes or phobic anything if they have, a voice and an opinion. And so, and it's just kind of like what you see, YouTube is a great little, it's a great little look at the microscopic lens of society. You go on YouTube, and if you're a quiet, kind person that wants to talk about just general societal matters, you will get attacked every day. I'm sure I will get a lot of attacking on this video. But if you create waves, you are celebrated. So like me, who has very calm, respectful, but concrete ideas about life and about my role in my community and the role of, the legal role of things and like governmental powers and where the balance should be. I can say it as politely as I want to say it, and I can tell people that I'm trying to go about this to create a dialogue and to engage with people and to start a conversation, and I will get nothing but hate. But if someone comes at that same topic with a hateful, argumentative, and explosive mindset, they will get built up and supported. So we've turned into a society that supports hate. We've turned into a society that supports drama. We've turned into a society that engages because of stress related triggers. We don't engage in what is calming or helps us find a center in our five senses. We engage in things that trigger us and amplify our stress response. And it's changing society. It's changing society for the worst. It's turning juveniles. It's turning juveniles in well, they have this like elongated juvenile period of time because they don't think they have to grow up. They think they can be in this argumentative juvenile stage forever. And I think that's what we're seeing. Yeah, empathy's gone out the window. It certainly has. I think what we're seeing in a lot of the political forums and stuff like that, like everybody's saying, oh, Twitter's gone to hell. Well, I thought Twitter was hell. That's why I think I made one tweet when it first started and was like, peace out, I'm out. These people are mean. And it was just not productive. It was just combative. And I thought, why would anyone choose to be in a combative scenario for 3 hours of the day with people that you don't know personally, you can't engage with, and you can't meet and actually individually understand. But it's how our world now communicates, sadly. We don't communicate to the individual, we communicate to the idea. And if you don't embrace our idea, then you don't deserve to live. And I find that atrocious. And everybody's, they're trying to get investigations into Twitter because the government's saying, is it dangerous for our government now? I'm sorry. It's not dangerous for our government. It's going to create transparency that it want the people to have. If it was dangerous as long as it's been created, because it has been a mouthpiece for very angry, aggressive groups for a long, long time. And statistically now, even though the New York Times is lying out their mouth, statistically now, if you look at the hate speeches on Twitter, it's like 90% reduced from what it used to be. And they're trying to profile and see what all is going on. But that also is a microscopic little view of our society. We have all turned into these hateful creatures that we think the only thing that matters is our altercations with others. It's not our relationships. It's not our negotiation skills. It's not our bonds. It's our altercations with others that matter. And I will tell you one thing in life. If you want to have a life of emptiness, then all you need to do is create altercations. Create altercations your entire life. You will be the loneliest person in existence. But people don't understand that because the fuzz from these social media sites, it consoles them. It hides them from the empty. If social media were to go away and they had to fill the emptiness that they had created in their worlds, that they know no one individually, they have no real group of friends, they do not have a physical interaction with anyone anymore, they would understand how they have depleted themselves as a human being. If we could just get rid of social media for a little while and people could hear crickets again and understand, oh, if I want to have a fulfilling conversation, I need to meet a person, and I need to meet that person on their level and talk and have a dialogue and learn again how to negotiate and debate. So I think that is why Carlin is doing what she's doing. I think she was given great numbers and great views when she first came out and she transitioned. And then as people started watching her kind of go back to old tactics, they went, no, I'm not really here for this, not here for the drama. It seems like wherever she steps, she's stepping in a pile, and she never washes her shoe off. She just drags it to the next pile. And, there's never any closure to her problems. It's just problem, or it's dragging somebody. She rarely engages with anybody. She just puts her little face in the corner and talks about whoever's live stream she's on. She's not an engagement person. She is basically like TMZ on acid for YouTube politically. And so she's just creating a lot of animosity and a lot of trigger issues and a lot of combatant type situations that don't need to be occurring. She's setting creators up against creators, because when she does that, it creates that drama cycle. So people will go to her to see what she's doing, and then they'll go watch the drama cycle, and then they'll go back to her to see what she's saying about it. So she's amplifying her views doing these things. And I'm here to tell you, social media is a drug. Views, likes, support is an addiction. And if that is what is paying your bills and paying your emotional bills as well as your financial bills, when those numbers start to wane, you will do almost anything to pick them back up. And I think she has traipsed over into an area where she's willing to compromise herself in order to maintain this platform. So, I would like to ask her, what was more important? Really talking to genuine people that were creating genuine change and that had genuine concern for our communities, or creating all this nonsense, talking about people's sex lives, their relationships with others, which should not be any of your business, and trying to create these moral dilemmas for viewers to say, oh, I choose this one, or that's wrong. No. The word moral is very subjective. While we all have this kind of overall desire of what morality should look like, it is very subjective. That's why we need the law. Because what is legal isn't always moral. What is moral isn't always legal. And that's why we are a nation of laws. And so for her playing this moral game and trying to amplify and debate on the morality of these creators and tank them so that she's getting views, it tells me that intrinsically she's not doing any self-regulation, because you know that what you do will happen to you as well. I hope she wakes up, because I used to enjoy listening to her perspective, because when she first started, she was talking about really real, genuine issues. That was the differences between these two mindsets politically. And it was helping me kind of bridge the gap and know how to communicate with people that I wouldn't necessarily communicate with. And, oh, well, I would say he's in the seventh layer or somewhere else, but okay. Morality is subjective. But it's strange to watch the change. And someone that truly was enlightened and found a better way to be and found a calling and genuinely felt that this was a safer place, a more accepting place, and like the best motivation for a future positive society, she would not be playing these games, because that is degrading, what she says she's trying to build. So I'm just kind of like, that she's created a lot of issues, like this whole Tim Pool and Adam Kriegler thing. Here's the thing. I look at this several different ways. If Tim has a business, should he be doing things with others that he employs? No. But I can't say he has been. So, moot point. Should Adam be talking about what is going on in a private residence or a private business? Probably not. Even if it violates certain things, years later, there's really not anything he can do about it. My biggest deal is, if Adam was so upset with what was going on in the home, why did he never move out, and why did he keep taking money? Because if I thought someone was dirty, I wouldn't live in their home and I wouldn't take their money. I would cut and go my own way and be like, I'm having nothing to do with you. So there is, I'm talking about Tim and Adam now, Clara, sorry. So, for her to blow this up and try to demonize Tim Pool, Tim has a lot of deficits. Adam has some deficits. Tim has a lot of good points to make. Adam has a lot of good points to make. Why we have to go to demonize people and only demonize people that is just an instigator. And in my world, we call them instigators. She's an instigator. She's an instigator, and instigators poke at things and sit back and want to watch the fight, but they never put themselves in it. And if they do find themselves in one, then they use all the buzzwords and all the big squeals and, to back you off. So, I would say, Carlin, if you really want to have an impact, start opening yourself up, start talking to your community, start doing Q&As with your subs, start seeing how they feel about your behavior, start accepting responses and perspectives that are different than yours. And, and start communicating instead of calling anyone that doesn't agree with you a shrill, a shill, or whatever it was, and creating these hostile live streams and this hostile mentality with your subs. And it's like unleashing flying monkeys on YouTube. It's just not necessary. Our world is already eaten up with hate. And I can't understand why anyone who states they walked away from hate and found a better place would then go back and create hate. And, even if it's financially to benefit yourself, those dollars are going to weigh heavy upon your soul. I don't think it's worth it. Yeah, Adam didn't talk about things for a long time, but Adam, like, if you look at the books, he accepted money for a long time. He lived in the house for a long time. Even after the break they had, he stayed there, received money, and didn't move. And then when he did move, Tim paid for him to move. And I'm sorry, but if you're that disgusted in someone, would you not move immediately, break immediately, and not take their money? So, Adam, if you had problems, it's okay. You can have your problems with the way someone lives their life. But before you go online and talk about it openly, you better make sure that your behavior reacting to those problems doesn't also kind of create a query of, where did you really stand? And if Tim's doing inappropriate things in his business, I hope he gets found out. And I hope there's a consequence. But if it's all false, then I hope he continues to succeed. But the thing is why are we on YouTube talking about people's relationships with others when that could have been settled civilly in a court privately, and not had millions of people upset and creating this animosity online? Who did that feed? Who did that fuel? Thousands, millions of views, clicks, and egotistical fluff went to these people over stupidity, over absolute stupidity. And if we as the viewer don't start holding people accountable by not giving them clicks, views, and likes and not fluffing their ego, we're also responsible. So it's very important that you choose who you spend your time with and choose to give your energy with. Energy is a very real thing. Energy is a conduit. It's a battery. It's a form of power. And if you want to wonder why the negative things are occurring in this world, just look at where most people's mindsets are at. They're in a negative mind frame. Therefore, we're going to generate negative power. So people need to really try to get into a more positive mind frame and create a more positive motivational way of being, and talk to your communities when things like what happened to me last week happen. Talk to your community about, how do we improve this? How do we make sure no one else has to feel like this? How do we make sure that people that are doing these negative things that are not conducive to a positive community, how do we say no? The law will be enforced to the maximum sentence. This will not be, just allowed to occur. You will have a consequence. Why are the consequences in life, for the majority, felt on social media as opposed to our judicial system? Why is a ban or a suspension on social media more of a damning thing than a prison sentence now? If someone's a criminal, they can change their life. Well, they got banned on Twitter. Oh, the devil. We really have to think about where we are as a society and how we're allowing our minds to be warped and our perceptions to be skewed, and how we're really being isolated and torn apart because I'm here to tell you, social media, while it's great to get information out, what it's primarily used for is to isolate us and separate us. And the more you separate humanity, and the more you make community bonds and individual physical contact, the more you ostracize that and make it the lesser of all contact, the more you are able to screw with people's minds. Because that physical contact and seeing people every day and that continuity of viewing someone else and their life and how they live it is what really affects our hearts. And we see people struggle, we see people living, we see people in hard times and good times, and we bond with them. And that's how we learn to have a different perception and to have sympathy and empathy for others. And we don't have that anymore. People are pulled apart. We're never physically interacting. If we do, it's with strangers that we bump into on the street, and we have no feelings for them. And primarily what we're running on is the endorphins given to us by this stupid little box. And this stupid little box is basically a brain sucker. You know, and it's for Big Brother. Hi, Big Brother. I know you hate me because I'm a calm, rational person that lives in Podunk. So, you know, there are so many controls that we have being used over us as a society right now. We say we live in the land of the free. We have not been free in many years. We have the illusion of freedom. But we have not truly been free, because the encroachment upon our laws and the way that our annotated code has been just made more and more you know, just smaller. It's just been reduced. Our freedoms have been reduced. You know, we really have no freedoms anymore. And it's just something we have to be aware of. Yeah, the dopamine hits from social media is what is fueling society right now. And that's a shame. When dopamine from a fictitious box and someone that is portraying life that probably isn't telling you anything real is more important than a physical human being that lives next door. Where are we? Where are we? We're seeing the downfall of our society, our communities. And it's sad for me, because I always thought that Appalachia would hang on the longest. But after what I went through last week, no. I think that Appalachia, even though we're probably not as internet savvy, I think that we do have people, because of the hardships here, that have learned how to manipulate what society is going through and use it to bankroll. And it's easier to bankroll in areas where certain awareness are slower to increase. So I think perhaps we are a targeted community right now, because not a lot of people are aware, and not a lot of the population here have the understanding to be aware. They don't have the knowledge of what they need to be aware of, and so they don't know where to start, what the indicators are, and by the time they've latched on that that's a problem, it's already a norm in their society. So I'm not okay with seeing my nation turn into a nation of hyenas looking for a carcass. I'm not okay with seeing every American turn into an arrogant asshole. I'm not okay with like seeing other nations laugh at how dysfunctional we are. And I'm not okay with seeing the legal parameters for law-abiding citizens shrinking while criminals have got more and more aid and more scope of awareness and more scope of aid. And I am super concerned. Yeah, Spirit. Yeah. Spirit said she was concerned that medicine and the military have gone woke. Yes. And I would even further say that they used one to make the other woke. It's easy to weed out stuff if you create an environment that will do the weeding for you. And I think that they've used one to make the other woke, to do the weeding for them. I hope we see a change. I hope we see I hope we start seeing a verbal rebuttal from lots of people, especially with the information that came out yesterday from Twitter and and from Mr. Musk and that Mr. Taibbi or whatever his name is. But I hope that I hope that there are some ramifications to what we saw occur. I hope people understand what freedom of speech is. I hope people understand that what occurred on Twitter was not right, was illegal, was used in such a manner as to create basically. It was used to basically tie the hands of over half the nation. And we need to be very aware of that. We need to speak about it. Now, do I have super trust in Elon Musk? No. Nope. Never met the man, never talked to him, don't have a good feel for him, but he's got a lot of money. And normally that scares me. People with a lot of money normally have a lot of opinions, and most of those opinions very rarely align with anyone that is like me, normal and suffering on a daily. I spent what I normally spend for $65 to $70 a week on groceries. I'm now spending $100 to $114 a week on groceries. I am on certain medications that if there are supply issue problems, I will basically be in flare mode constantly. You know, and some of my medicines, if I get truthfully really sick again, cost $2,800 a month. And there are no aid programs for that, and my insurance will not pay for them, and they will not accept insurance payment, and I'm just screwed. So that's why I try to monitor my health super carefully and kind of control my emotions and control, you know, and that's why I think this last week kind of elevated everything. But I do feel better when I talk about it, because these are the real things that real people are going through. These are real things that poor people like me with a lot of health issues are handling. And it's stupid for there to be such a, hi Sam. Sam, did you get your mail yet, or has it got to you yet? Or I was wondering about that the other day. I think it's silly that we've created such a divide in a nation that shouldn't have a divide, because we should be able to talk about it. We come from a place where we were created and founded on freedom. And while people want to call us colonizers, what the heck happened to the rest of the world? That was the name of the game for. If what ticks me off is how they want to say that America is all these bad things when all these things happened worldwide, and then they want to talk about slavery. Slavery is still going on in parts of the world. If you really care about slavery, go attack it where it's still going on. But we focus and we create this animosity and this like black plague of emotional death upon our nation. No, when we have really gotten more things right, and we have really climbed out of a lot of the holes that other nations are still in, and we're still trying to allow our people more expression and more openness. But it seems like it's being overtaken by one specific viewpoint. And it's just like, I mean, where in the world do you not think all the things that happened in America didn't occur? And I say this as a Scots-Irish Cherokee. You know, people say, well, aren't you concerned about your native brethren? I know about my native brethren, and I know the atrocities that they also did. I know the atrocities that my Cherokee and Chickasaw ancestors also did. No man is without blame in this world, you know, but to try to just create one view is just so toxic when we are, you know, we're just, the whole world has struggled with this, and to try to make America like the whipping boy is stupid. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. I often wish that people would find their own intrinsic worth, so they wouldn't have to rely on a backstory or a narrative to think that they have worth. You have worth. If you're alive and breathing, you have worth. It doesn't matter where you come from, how much melanin you have in your skin, none of that. If you're alive and breathing, you have worth. You don't have to grip onto these huge social stories and pantomimes to say, oh, I have worth. See, I'm in this movement. No, you have worth. But here's the thing. When you allow somebody to use your worth for a profitable gain, you better be careful. You better be careful, because you are then enabling someone. You better be sure that they've got their ducks in a row, because you could be enabling some really dark, evil people. Yeah, everyone wants to come to this awful country. And the people that have came here, and they came here legally, they will tell you how good it still is, but that they're fearful of what they're seeing. And they're seeing it from the youngest of this nation that don't understand history. They don't understand a world perspective. They don't understand historical cultures and societies. They don't understand downfalls of historical cultures and societies. They don't understand the plight of man. They just have this much information and intelligence, and they cause this much of the problem, and it should be the other way around, you know. It's frustrating for me to think that we are being led by the nose as a society by a bunch of 18 to 24-year-olds that are they're about as sightful as a mole in the sunlight. I mean, they need some help, and I'm concerned that we have given this additional juvenile stage in young adults' lives way too much freedom and expression and importance. And we have no like movement to adulthood. We have no rite of passage in this nation, which is something I think we definitely need. And that was something that was very important for me, that I found from my Native roots and from how I was held at a lesser stature when I was a child. I was not allowed to certain tents. I wasn't allowed to help in certain arts and crafts and certain ceremonial things until I got older. And it made me want to be an elder. It made me want to learn to be as smart as the people that got into those tents and they were looked at as wise people. And I was just, that's what made me want to grow up. I wanted to be an elder, but I had to learn and I had to be told all the stories and I had to be held accountable before I was allowed to advance into that adulthood and to be respected and be told, yes, you have wisdom. You're an elder now. I think we desperately need, some kind of rite of passage, because right now it seems like rites of passage are like these stupid little movements that people jump into. And then when you take the movement apart, all it was a funnel of money to buy somebody mansions, and no one was aided, no one was helped, no one was sent to college, no one's rent was paid, and no one in trouble or that suffering was aided. It was just to get financial funneling to someone that wanted something more than what they had, and they cared not who they used in their plan to get it. And that just surprises the heck out of me that our young people still believe in these things and still put their energy there. And I'm just like, are you stupid? But yeah, they are. And so, I'm just trying to wake people up. There's this change that's occurring in our nation is now touching places in our nation that I thought would at least be 5 more years down the road. So it tells me that we're in a much more dangerous spot than I thought. It tells me that crime and the criminal mind and the criminal component and criminogenic behavior is far advanced from where it was when I turned in my badge and said adios. And just having, I felt so sick to have a vice president raise bail money for criminals. I worked my butt off for a decade to keep criminals off the freaking streets and to keep my community safe. And then the moment I'm retired due to my health, I have to watch my vice president raise money to get people out of jail after they've had criminal behavior. I was not okay with that. Our justice system, the shortcuts that are being created in our justice system are not doing anyone any good. Let me tell you that. So we just have to be more aware. We have to talk about these things, and I don't hate anyone that has a different view set, a viewpoint from me. I have friends all over the world and we don't always agree on everything. And I think that is what is a strength. Don't agree on everything, but understand where the melting pot occurs and try to focus on those things, so that you can have genuine conversation and genuine affection and love for another human being, and that way you'll have a little more leniency toward when they kind of go off the rails. You'll kind of go, okay, but I love them, so I'm going to listen. And then they love me and they're going to listen to me. And we may not agree, but we're still going to have this foundation of love. We have no foundation of love in this nation anymore. You can see it on YouTube. You can see it on creators. You can see creators treating their subs like crap, and subs keep coming back. We have perpetuated this nation to where all we want is that tension, that stress, that triggering interaction. We've become the dopamine fiends, and no one is just wanting a calm, stable, happy life anymore. What happened? What happened to wanting to be happy, genuinely happy? Happy for other people, happy for yourself, and calm. That went out the way when all the social media came about, and tension and stress and disorder and chaos turned into financial money, turned into clicks and financial money. We've got to undo this and get back. Hi, Barbie. It's good to see you again. I've been so sick, I've not been on much. I've had a really, really rough month, and I apologize. I've not been well, and I've just not been able to do as much. YouTube is very toxic. It's very toxic. And I think people keep coming back to me because it's kind of like having a conversation with, like, you know, your friend at the kitchen table. And I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life. I'm telling you how things are affecting me. And I'm telling you my perspective, you know, but I'm not sending you out like little minions to do hateful things. It's like I tell everyone, never engage in any kind of YouTube negativity to protect me. Don't ever stand up for me. Let people say whatever they want to say about me. Don't ever waste your time and energy on protecting me. That's my job. But we have so many creators that create little armies, little marching armies, and it's just why. I mean, if you're a creator and you're that self-aware and you're that confident, why do you need to turn your subs into marching armies? Why? You know, I don't want anyone else to have not 1 second of anxiety or fear or stress or unhappiness because they feel like they need to stand up or engage on my behalf. I'm big girl. That's my job. But I watch all these other creators that send people out to experience the nastiest side of humanity. And they take their marching orders and they go. And you're not getting paid. What are you getting? You're getting a dopamine hit. How much does that really affect your life? What could you also be getting that dopamine hit from in a positive way if you let that social media go? What else could you do? What are some naturally occurring happy things? You read a book, watch an old school TV show that propagates smiles and laughter, not this new tense crap. Have a conversation with someone you love. Do community service so that you feel, you know, you have this feel of helping and you know, humanity. You know, you feel like you're in the middle of it and you're helping. Do these things that really do create positive energy. The true crime community sucks. I mean, it's like G4 suckage. It's bad. And Allegedly Innocent talks about it a lot, and I like to listen to her talk. She has a lot of good points and stuff. I don't always agree with everything she says, but she has got very great ways of looking at it. But yeah, I've been watching like the Waltons, Little House on the Prairie, Petticoat Junction. I've even been watching Man Tracker. If you like Man Tracker, like I like to track. Like I'm a hunter, so I used to love to get out and track stuff. So I think it's on Tubi. They have like all the seasons of Man Tracker, where the guy on the horse, they turn 2 people loose and they have to make it so many miles in 24 hours. And if they make it, they win. If he catches them, they lose. So I love to watch that because he is so smart. But sometimes the people are smart, and I'm learning stuff. I'm engaged, and when he catches them, they all have a good life. You know, and I love to watch Man Tracker. So I've been watching a lot of the old school positive stuff. Tubi's good. Freebie is very good. Freebie's got a lot of the old classics. Like I was watching The Trouble with Nuns. Is it The Trouble with Nuns? Trouble with Angels, that had Haley Mills and the other lady in it. The Trouble with Angels. I love the old movies. I will sit and watch any Gary Cooper movie that comes on my TV. Like if men could be built like Gary Cooper again, the world would be fixed. Like what happened to all the Gary Coopers, you know? If you really want to understand my area specifically, if you will Google on YouTube, if you will look up Sergeant Alvin C. York or Sergeant York, you can watch the entire movie for free. That is from my area. He's just right down the hill from me. And I think that is why my area is more behind the curve, because we've got this hero in our midst that's always kind of this status that we're, you know, trying to adhere to. Like, this man did so much good, we can't allow our place to go bad. And so, you know, we use him, I think, energetically to keep our area good and to keep our area, thinking challenging ideas, challenging religion and governmental views and the mixture of both. We use him to kind of find our own balance because of the balance he had to find as a young man. And it's a great movie. It's a great thought-provoking movie. And it creates a great conversation for people to have. Hey Joe, how you doing? So I'm really like an old school movie fan. I think a lot of the old movies have a lot of core values and lessons to learn, be taught. I grew up on Anna Green Gables and The Journey of Natty Gann and The Brat Patrol and old movies like that they had morals to them. Sergeant York actually he actually killed very few, but he took captive 139 and took out so many machine guns, saved 2 or 3 regiments from being like murdered by the machine guns, and he used his hunting tactics to do so, and he took 139 captive and brought them in, and so he was like a massive hero of the war. And he said, I did it with, he said, with extinguishing as few lives as possible and taking the rest captive. And he garnered a lot of respect for his mindset on even going into the war, even joining the Army when he was drafted, because he was a conscientious objector at the beginning and tried not to go. But after he studied his Bible and spoke with everyone, he decided, I'm being called for a good reason, and I'm going to try to do this and do it in a way that still honors my beliefs. So we really, he's kind of like our homegrown hero, and we love him. And he also generated the first high school in this area. That's where I actually graduated from, but he generated the first high school in this area for continuing education for kids in Appalachia. So the reason that I can sit here and address you all as competently as I can is much because of Alvin C. York. So he got me, I went to school at Alvin C. York Institute, and then I went on to college and got my master's in psychology. So it's a really great movie. Oh, Jane Russell is, if I could be anyone, I would be Jane Russell. She's just gorgeous. She's a very buxom, handsome, beautiful woman who could do a Western like nobody's business. And if you've, I think she's also, isn't she with Bob Hope in, is it Painless Potter? Or it's an old Western where she marries the dentist. Oh, I love that movie. But anyway, there's so much positive in this world. There's so much positive in this world, and it seems like for the last 10 years, we've just been stuck on the negative. And I want everyone to start really practicing positivity and practicing calm, rational thinking and practicing making better choices about who you give your energy and time to, because that is energy and time that they then get to turn into something as well. Let's start making better decisions, and let's start really understanding how we affect others and how the ripple effect really is felt. And, and I don't want us to go and like have any hate to Carlin. She still says things that need to be said. She still has ideas that need to be shared. I just think she's on a very toxic pathway with some of her specific interests right now. And I don't think it's a very healthy thing. I don't think it's healthy for her or her viewers. And so, I worry about her as well. And I don't want anyone to go and generate any hate, but just be aware of the content creators that you follow and where they place their energy and what they're banking off of. And if it's really a conversation that needs to be had, or if it's just something that they're generating for likes and views and clicks. So that's just kind of what I wanted to say. It's just been a really weird week in my home. I've had a lot of things to think about, and I got drugged back into my old mindset when I was an officer and had to do a lot of hard thinking. And it wasn't a good week. It wasn't a good week. And I had to really accept that my community is failing as well. Is falling apart as well. And that means that the curve that I thought we were behind on more, we're not. And so I have to work harder. I have to do more locally. I have to be a more vocal person in my community, and I have to be more aware. I have to be more aware of the mentality of everyone here, and I have to try to create more positivity than negativity, and I have to try to somehow create an outreach in my community that physically touches families, because that's the only way to really promote change. So, you want to hug me right now? Well, I know, as sick as I've been, you probably don't want to hug me. I think most of it's from my RSD, and I think I might have had a little virus on top of it, but I have been very sick. But I went yesterday and had more shots and more medicine. So after some more rest, I'll feel better. David is by himself at the sale today. I feel horrible that he had to go by himself. He's not as talkative and doesn't draw people in as much as I do. So I feel bad, because I think that it goes better when I'm there and I pull people in and talk to people. But I talked to him about an hour and a half ago, and he's like, it's not good. He's like, the weather is horrible. Even though I'm inside, the people have to traipse around the fairgrounds to get to the buildings. And he said, it's just not a good crowd. He said, I'm hoping it picks up as the weather kind of clears a little bit. But it's not what he had hoped for. So hoping that maybe tomorrow will be a better day. If I sleep enough today, maybe I can go with him. It's a shorter day tomorrow. But right now, I just needed to share this, and now I need a nap because I'm tired. But I didn't rest good last night. Those antibiotics hurt. I didn't have a hip to lay on. It hurt. Yeah, Joe, the energy is, I think everybody's feeling it. And I think if we get together and we talk about it, we can all start to realize how important energy is, and how important it is to talk about it, and how important it is to try to shift it. Because it's created, so that means it can be altered. So that is, I guess, the winning view, the winning thought on all this. Negative energy is also created, therefore positive energy can be created. So if it's negative that's winning, we can alter that. We just need to create more positive energy. So I think I'll leave ins with that, because I'm extremely tired, but lots of thoughts in my home this week. And I don't want you to worry about me. I'm perfectly safe. I scare people off, apparently. I'm perfectly safe. But I don't want you to worry about me. But I just wanted to address this, because I think we all have jobs to do wherever we're sat. We're like seedlings. We've been sprinkled to come up and create certain things there. Yeah, altered prayer is powerful, yeah. So, where you are is where you're meant to be, and we're meant to do hard work. So if you're not working hard, work harder. I really kind of put myself at the edge of what I should be doing, and sometimes kind of overdo it and overstress my body. But if it means that my community is better for my grandkids, then hey, that's what I'm going to do. It might take me out of the world earlier, but if it means the longevity of happiness of my children and grandchildren is there, then that's fine. Oh, thank you, Barb. Yeah, we have a lot in common. Yeah, I'm glad you popped back in today. I've just not been on a lot, and I've missed everyone, but I have to really be careful where I put my energy, because of my health. And I do have other things going on where I need to put my energy. So I'm sometimes, if you don't see me, it's because, my real life is more important. Even though I love you guys, my real life is more important. And I hope that your real lives are more important as well. Prioritize. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about a few of those things. So thanks for sitting with me. And as soon as I feel better, we'll try to get together and do another crafting. I am going to be making those possums. I did get my big pine cones in. So I've got my big pine cones. I've got a very limited number. I've already had 2 requested. So I may put some on Etsy, and there will be like 8 to 9 inch pine cones. They're huge. So they'll be big possums that hang from your Christmas tree by their tail. They have a wire tail. So I'm going to be making some of those as soon as I feel better. And anyone that has not started working on your picture frame, if you've got a buddy that you're sending if you've got a swap buddy that we've talked about, I know Gypsy and Dave are swap buddies. I'm swap buddies with Priscilla, and I know a couple more events have swapped. We're going to be making just a homemade, you use a picture frame and stuff from your home to make a little pretty to send to somebody. And so pair up with somebody that you feel comfortable with. If you don't feel comfortable with anyone, email me at watersworkload@gmail.com and I'll be your buddy. But a lot of us are older and not in the best of health. And I know a lot of us also don't have huge families. So if you're not getting something for Christmas, I want you to get something. So we're trying to all link up and at least make sure that, our core based little family group I'll receive something in the mail. Now, use a P.O. box and be safe, but if you want to participate, let us know. So, okay, Joe, thanks. Yeah, just email me. And probably I'll just choose you because it'll take a while to get to you. So I'll just adopt you, Joe. Oh, that's sweet, Barbie. That's a great idea. Yeah, just one small little smile or 5 seconds of happiness can really change someone's life. Yeah, we're actually related through marriage, through my first marriage. We searched back, and she's originally from England, and we researched back, and my first marriage, my first father-in-law was a Scanlon. And so we found out that we're related through marriage. We were related through marriage. So I will just adopt you and send you something for Christmas, Josephine. So just you'll have to email me your address again because I think it's changed since the last time I sent you something. So, but yeah, I just want everybody to have a good holiday and to feel remembered and thought of. So that's kind of what I'm going for. I want to spend more time with you, and I hope as my health improves I can. But right now I'm going to have to go take a nap because I'm starting to wane. So them antibiotics are killing me, y'all. And so you can see my face in the washout. The antibiotics are killing me. Antibiotics are very hard on me, and I only ever take them when I absolutely have to. And right now I absolutely have to. But let me tell you, they hurt. So I will be resting a lot over the next few days. But when I feel good, I will pop on and say howdy. I just thought that we needed to talk about this because I knew a few of you knew what had happened to me, and I didn't want to leave the rest of you hanging. And one thing I also didn't share, and I'll share this in the end, why I chose to share this, what made me say, yes, I need to talk about this, was because just a few days after people tried to breach my home and intimidate me, someone that was affiliated in the negativity that was going on in this area ran from law enforcement, tried to cut down this road because they knew it, because they traveled it often for nefarious reasons. Nefarious. I pulled a rhyme right then. That he cut down this road to get away from law enforcement he had fled from because he thought he knew the road well enough because he traveled a lot for bad reasons. He wrecked and killed himself. They tried to call in a chopper, but it was too late. And this was about half mile from my house. Well, about a quarter mile from my house. It was right in front of the wood yard and concrete plant that we have here. And he wrecked, and it ejected him. And there was very little hope for him. But they tried to get a helicopter in because we have no hospital. They tried to get a helicopter in, and by the time the helicopter came in, he had already died. So because of the negativity that had been allowed to kind of go rampant in this area, a young man who he made his own choices and chose a very negative way of life. I mean, I can't make that okay. That's on him. But he lost his life. If we had had a more aggressive community and a more aggressive judicial sector, this young man might still be alive. And so that impacted me a lot as well. So now every time when I leave my road and get on the secondary road, it's just all marked up with police marks and spray paint. And they finally removed the toolbox that was in the back of the vehicle that ended on the complete other side of the road, was caught by a woven wire fence. Nobody should drive up their road and see what I saw laying on my road. Yeah. I've walked murder scenes, and I've done pre-sentence investigations for the court on murders. And I've seen autopsy photos. I've seen a lot of things that a lot of people shouldn't see. But knowing how unnecessary it was to have to go to the grocery store and have to drive through what was left, no one should ever see that. So that's when I thought, no, I have to talk about this. Oh, they're stickers. They're Color Street stickers. Christie's VIP Nails. Christie, Kristie. Christie's VIP Nails. She's a local lady that she'll mail them to you if you want them. But that's what prompted me to really talk about this. So yeah, nobody should, he should have had, if he had had harder outcomes from previous engagements, he might not have been in the position to have wrecked and killed himself. And while the court people may not think about that, and the probation department may not think about that, and most of the community, I do. I think about that. So how do we create barriers for people that are not making good decisions to give them time to catch up and start making better decisions, to have the time to do work on themselves and make better decisions? And yeah, some people are just self-destructive. Yeah, some people cannot be helped. So if you go back to the first of the stream, my husband and I decided that, we were going to basically see people that lived in the general area be picked up by an ambulance, dead on arrival due to an OD, and we can't help them. You can't engage. It's too dangerous. But there are some that we can still reach. And this was just 26 years old. 26 years old. And running from the cops from something that probably would have got him a 10-month 1129 issue. And now he's dead. Stupid. It's stupid to devalue your own life that much, but be so intoxicated with that criminogenic lifestyle that you think that your life has value when it doesn't. And that's the big thing that they need to see. That's the big transition of perspective that most of them see eventually, the ones that do wake up. So yeah, that bothered me a lot, because I know this boy has had trouble before. I know he's been on supervision, and I know that there were many outlets where he could have been reached. And I sadly don't think that the officers around here do their jobs nearly well enough. They don't apply the skills and the tools that they have with enough compassion and kind of enough force to really create change. And I was blessed that I was one of those that could create a lot of change. And I'm still missed, and I still have judges check on me and court staff check on me, and criminals that have gotten out of the criminal lifestyle, they're like, I'm doing well now. I just wanted to call and thank you. I'm blessed that I was able to generate some change. So I want someone else in that bracket that cares enough to create change. And if that can't happen, then I have to step up and try to create it as well. Yeah, Barb, it's those people that feel like they have no other outcome and they have no other option, and they make rash decisions. And a lot of that can be completely undone by just sitting down and having a conversation. Because they can't find a different path out of it doesn't mean that someone else that sits down with them can't help them identify a different path. And lots of times it is just their own limitations, and talking with someone else that can help expand those and give them options it's a big help. So I used to teach cognitive behavioral therapy, and they used to say, we were taught first 3 thoughts wrong. I said, forget first 3, first 333 thoughts are wrong. I mean, our mind goes through a whole gamut of wrong things before it ends up on a right thing. So we have to be very aware about how our minds are kind of pre-trained to jump and go into these certain pathways. Yeah, kids are manipulated thinking that this is criminal lifestyle, and gangs do benefit from the breakdown of the family. They kind of replace that void in that kid's life. That's how gangs get people. They form a family unit that other people are lacking. That's how gangs get people. You belong. That's how much people want to belong. They will go through a beating and treated like crap to belong. So if we could just create a more positive place for people to belong, we could see such change. Hi, Brandy. So yeah, they handpick the kids that are in that void, and that's how they get them. And I did a lot of training, a lot of research on this when I was an officer, and that is their prime. I mean, it's like a casting call almost. They just look through their community and they look for kids in trouble that are either in state's custody or have a very negligent or neglectful or unaware family, and they try to fill that void in that child's life. Well, Barbie, that's how I was. I was raising livestock. I had, ewes lambing every winter. I had cattle calves. I had horses bred. I was training horses. I had parents that were strict, sometimes too strict. But I had a lot of oversight and expectations placed upon me. And that's one thing that, was not a bad thing. Kids need more oversight. And, now there were times when I was turned loose on the farm, I probably needed to have more supervision. But for the most part, I was kept in safe places with safe people and given very sturdy rules. So, and I had repercussions, I had consequences, and, and it wasn't, I didn't have the most perfect childhood because, some extenuating circumstances sometimes happen, but for the most part, I had a good childhood. And, and my mother didn't graduate from college until she was 36. So I had a mother that kind of showed me to always work for what you want to get done and accomplished, because you can accomplish it. Even if you're accomplishing it late, you're accomplishing it. And so, I had a father that made his money by breaking his back shoeing horses. He was a blacksmith. And I had a mother that went to college and became an educator. And I was raised on the farm. My grandpa was a farmer and he was a teacher. And I was setting tobacco before I was ever in school. I was setting tobacco. I worked, I worked broiler houses as a teenager for my dad. And if he had work to do or it was easier for me, I would go do the broiler houses before and after school so that he had to travel out of state to shoot that day. He wouldn't have that extra pain on him. And I was as handy at broiler houses, and I had 2 or 3 houses that had like 21 to 40,000 in them. I was as handy at broiler houses as a full grown man at 12 and 13 years of age. So, I had responsibilities and expectations placed upon me, and it was a good thing. And now kids are kind of lost in the shuffle. But the bad thing is they have this whole extra world to explore, and 99% of it's negative, and they don't have enough positive intervention. And I think that's what we need to start challenging. We need to have positive intervention. I know I had Laredo boots, and Betty, I can't tell you how many times I resold them suckers because they were so expensive. But when you have to buy your own shoes and your own boots, and as a child, it creates responsibility, and it was a good thing for me. Now I had a good income as a teenager. I had flocks of sheep. I had herd of cattle. I had horses I was training. I had a good income as a teenager. I broke horses, trained horses, and halter broke show cattle and showed sheep and cattle. So, and I worked on farms. So I had a pretty good income. Yeah, there was we had a rough spell, Barbie. We had a rough spell where things kind of fell apart for a while, and I was lucky that we got it back together. But it was painful for a while, but we got it back together. So that's the important thing. But I was fortunate enough as a child that my mom stayed home until we got into school before she went back to her education. And, I had wonderful grandparents. My grandpa to this day would hide me from my grandmother so I wouldn't have to take cooking lessons and I could play out with the animals on the farm. So I had really wonderful grandparents, and that was another source of support as a child that I don't think kids have these days. So there's a lot of stuff that we could talk about that we could improve, but until we stop relying on the government to fix everything and we start remembering that communities and families should be the first course of action, should be the first course of intervention, nothing's going to change. And we need to stop thinking, oh, there's a government program for that and they're the professionals. Let me tell you, I've worked with the people that are in those government-funded programs that are supposed to be the professionals. I wouldn't trust half of them with a dog I didn't like. So before you put your children in therapy, try to rally your family and discuss things. Try to intervene for yourselves. Try to reach that child on your own if there's any way possible, because once you get on the government radar and you become a lime to be squeezed, you will always be squeezed by the government. They will always have your name. They will always find a way to check up on you, and they will always find a way to milk you for something. So, and I would get like berated by my boss because I didn't sign people up on every program we had that they could take. And I said, but that would be too much for them to actually accomplish, and they're on supervision. So if I give them too much and they can't accomplish it, then their probation officer will violate them for not following all recommendations of the counselor. So I'm setting them up for failure. I'm going to give them 1 or 2 at a time that I know they can accomplish and stepping stone them up. And he said, no, we can bill more if you do it all together. And I said, I don't care about the money. I care about their accomplishments and gaining control and gaining, awareness as a family that they can succeed. And he was like, well, that's, for us, that's not what we hired you to do. And I was like, well, then you put that on a piece of paper and cite me for it, and I'll just create an ethical violation on you because I'm not going to put too much on them. That's a speed bump. And so, I witnessed that so many times. So, be careful when you think that, oh, well, we're just immediately going to go to this federal program that's got professionals, because 9 times out of 10, it is a cattle call. It is a cattle call. You have to be super careful. And if you can do it privately and do it on your own without going through a federally funded program, do it. Because there are hidden agendas in those federally funded programs. There are so many ways that they can still access your family and contact and be involved in your family for years. I just don't think it's a positive thing. This is my opinion. I don't think it's a positive thing. And I worked in that regard. So, just remember that family is supposed to be that first line of defense for a struggling child. And we need to get back to the family. Oh, Barbie, did you? You need to email me and tell me about that. Yeah, your family should be the people that circle the wagons and ring your bell, have it coming to Jesus. And we just, and we need to get back to the days where we're allowed to have those family interventions without the government going, I had a boy at one of the camps I worked at. He was sent to camp because he had called the cops on his mother, and the cops had deemed that they had no control over the boy, so they had sent him to a juvenile camp. He was 13. He was a baby. He had no criminogenic behavior, no skills, nothing. But by the time he left after a 2-year stay, he was basically a young thug. And I asked him one day, I said, what got you here in the first place? And he said, I refused to do the dishes, and my mother spanked me, and I called the cops. And in my head, I thought she should have hugged the phone up and spanked you again. But he ended up, who was just a little turd, a little mouthy turd. The cops came there, cited the mother for abuse and neglect, for giving, and he wasn't bruised, I read the paperwork, it wasn't bad. He basically got like 2 swats on the hiney. And he decided that he didn't want to be with the parents, pleaded with the court to place him somewhere. He got put in a wilderness boot camp. He decided after 2 years that was not a good decision. But while he was there, he met a whole lot of kids that had done far worse than him. And so by the time he left, he was geared up to be not a good person the rest of his life. And I can't tell you how many times I saw that. It's like sending your Cocker Spaniel to Pit Bull school. It's just, don't do it. But those interventions sometimes go south like that. People need to be aware of that. And then I've met kids that were raised up in gang homes that come there and just want to have a good life. And they're so troubled that they can't make it happen. I had one that graduated out, and I begged them to find another grant to keep him. And they said they couldn't because they couldn't find a scholarship grant for him. And I said, just hang on to him. Give me 2 weeks. We'll find something. And they said, no, we're sending him home. And I got injured not too long after that and was off after surgery and healing. And I got an email, and they told me, they didn't even call me to tell me in person. They sent an email to tell me, oh, by the way, he stepped in front of a train and killed himself last night. They didn't even call me to tell me that over the phone. They sent it in a bulk email to all employees. Like it was just a training schedule. So, and I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, and had y'all given me 2 weeks to find a grant program, he'd still be here and he'd still be alive. I told him, I said, he's not even addressed the demons yet. I said, he's just learned to sit still. Don't send him home. But because they didn't find money, they didn't keep him. So, those are things that I just can't forget. And it shapes the way that I see the world, and it shapes the way that I want to handle things, and it shapes the way that I have responded to kids around me and in my area that are struggling. And it's why I think I have so many bonus children, and it's why I'm so hyper aware. But I've lost so many needlessly, and that my hands were tied due to state or federal regulations. And it was all about money. It wasn't about the child. So it's just, sad things. I've worked in super emotional careers and done a lot of super, I've had to be a very stable and rational and compartmentalizing adult. And so I've handled a lot of stuff that other people probably wouldn't want to handle or couldn't have handled. But I'm thankful because it gave me a voice and a perspective that I'm not scared to share, and that I have a foundation of factual empirical data to share it from. And forgiveness is something that you have to work on. Barbie, I've been there. It took me 8 years of quietly dealing with it before I could utter the word forgiveness. So I understand completely. But there's a lot that we need to address in this world. And I think we just need to get brave enough to have the conversations, and get brave enough that when people say, oh, you don't need to be talking about that, we say, yes, we do. And you can have that opinion, but I'm of the opinion we do need to be talking about it. So if you want to join the conversations, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too. Bye. And we need to not be disgruntled or stopped by these braggadocious turds that use social media, as a stomping ground. Barbie, yeah, it's very hard. Yeah. It's healing in the end, but it's the hardest thing I've ever done. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. Very healing in the end, but the hardest thing I've ever done. So Gypsy popped in here. Hey, Gypsy. Well, I'm done. I really do need to lay down. I really just wanted to have this conversation. I'm glad y'all stuck with me. I hope something kind of pulled at your heart, give you something to think about. And if it did, there's someone in your immediate area that you can reach out to and help. If someone is struggling with any of the things we talked about, physical interaction is the best solace for a hurting soul. So reach out and help somebody, and look at your community with a critical eye, and address things that you're not happy with, and address them from a place of love, but from a place of stern love, and make sure that you are always addressing it as, in like a statistical researched empirical data way, instead of just, using your feelings. Always try to back up, with knowledge what you're saying, and that way you'll have less arguments. And you can tell people, go research this. So I would highly recommend, and I put a link in the community profile last night. I would highly recommend everyone go watch the stream that Redacted did last night over the Twitter fiasco stuff. It's very enlightening. And I would recommend, over the next week, challenge yourself. How many times do you feel almost pulled into a negative YouTube creator's video? And how many times are you pulled into a positive one? Check yourself. Kind of do a little study on yourself. See what instigates your desire to click a link, and understand where your motives are, your motivation, and maybe a weakness is, and understand how to overcompensate that, and understand what YouTube is saying. Oh, look, you might also want to look at this, and use that not interested option. Get those out of your feed, and start doing searches for positive material, so that you generate a more positive recommended page. There are ways that you can overcome the social media squabble. You have to be aware that it's happening. So I hope I made you aware, and I hope I gave you stuff to think about. I need a nap, and I'm fixing to drink a Dr. Pepper because I need some caffeine. And hope I feel better tonight, but I feel better just having talked about this, even though I'm tired. So thank you for listening. I appreciate your time. And everybody, try to have a wonderful day. Do positive things. And even if you handle sad things that occur in life, compost them and try to spin them into a positive. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Bad things happen, but if we can make them a positive, let's make them a positive. So I'm hoping to reach out and make this little area of my community aware of what's going on so that we all open our eyes and we create a neighborhood watch and we basically eradicate negativity from this area because they know there's more than just me watching, everyone's watching. So I'm thinking about printing up some flyers and honestly just going door to door and just saying, here, read about this. We all need to be aware. Here are emergency numbers, stick it on your fridge. If you see something that is off kilter, know that it is actually occurring in this area and it needs to be reported, and you can help make a safer place for your kids and your neighbors' kids to play. So I'm really thinking about just going door to door and handing those out when I feel better. And nothing changes without energy and work. So that's where I'm going to work at. So, okay, it's nap time. Thank yous for spending time with me. I appreciate all the prayers. Thank you, Clara. Yeah, send me some good vibes so I heal quickly. And I'll be back as soon as I feel better. Love you guys. Bye.